Sega.
Although not as game-changing as Virtua Fighter, Virtua Cop, or Virtua Squad, as the home release was titled in the USA, aimed to take light gun shooting games into a new world of 3D polygon-modelled graphics, and it largely succeeded, fusing Sega's blue skies approach with plenty of bad guys to shoot with plastic guns. It also allowed two players to take on levels together. First, we'll look at the original 1994 arcade game running on Sega's Model 2 arcade board. This I'll emulate using the Sega Model 2 emulator. Next, we'll look at the standard Windows PC port running under Windows 10. And finally, we'll look at the PC version optimised for graphics cards using Nvidia's NV1 chipset, which was Nvidia's first graphics chip. This I'll run on real hardware. The arcade version released in a number of different cabinets, with the main difference being how the guns were stored in the cabinet. It also features some interesting side art. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a cop or a bad guy. I guess the badge means it's a cop? The game begins with a rolling demo. This explains how the sights work, how your life marks work, and how to reload your gun. In the arcade, this involved you pointing your gun away from the screen and shooting to reload. This is followed by a cinematic of the bad guys checking their cool new guns before the cops turn up in a bright magenta Pontiac Firebird, which I guess is a nod to Miami Vice and their sports car driving cops. The high score table is then displayed, before a few more cinematics and the title screen. This sequence then repeats. When I start the game, I get to choose between beginner, medium and expert stages. These can be completed in any order. The first stage is the Arms Black Market. Note that the red crosshair here isn't in the actual arcade game. This is something the Model 2 emulator adds to help you aim. The arcade game runs at a low resolution of just 496 by 384 pixels, so it's pretty blocky when scaled up. The Model 2 emulator can be forced to run at much higher resolutions, but I wanted to capture the original arcade experience. I've added 2x anisotropic filtering to attempt to match the trilinear filtering the arcade used. If you enable trilinear filtering in the Model 2 emulator, then all the textures disappear. After a short while, I complete Scene 1 and get a score breakdown of my accuracy so far. Occasionally you'll be able to change your gun for other types, such as an automatic here. Some fire faster, some carry more bullets, but as soon as you take damage you revert back to your basic 6-shooter. After traversing the docks I clear Scene 2, then head indoors. After blasting through a lot more bad guys, I eventually take a side door and face the first stage boss, Kong.
Pretty bold, aren't we? I'll take care of you myself.
He likes to fire rockets at me.
Wait, I give up. I'll talk what you want to know about a racket. Gotcha.
And the helicopter escapes as I get my stage 1 results. Then start the second stage, the underground weapons storage. A nice sunset lights this stage as I venture into what appears to be an active quarry rather than an underground weapons storage area. It's cool that you can blow up barrels and bring down big scenery elements. After blasting many more dudes and the odd good guy by accident, which costs you 1 life, I eventually complete the first scene. The second scene gets a bit confusing as I head up and then back down the quarry. Later on, a guy even hits me with a massive truck. And then another guy tries attacking me with an excavator. The scene ends with a massive, satisfying explosion as I finally enter the underground weapons storage area, I presume. Here a machine gun helps clear the way, well, at least a little bit. The second boss is called King.
Sure enough, you two. So you made it this far, huh?
And he attacks with a flamethrower and a bunch of his minions. Eventually I take him out, and this stage is done. Stage 3 is the gang headquarters. I'd always be suspicious of a company called EVL. The stage begins with me shooting some perps outside the building, before I descend into a parking garage to wipe out even more bad guys and blow up some red barrels, of course. This scene ends with you going upstairs into the lobby area. Various bad guys attack with grenades, and there are a lot of innocent people to accidentally blast. Whoops. A truck reverses in, so I get to wipe out another mini army of bad guys, before I eventually take the escalator upstairs. The scene then transitions into an office area. The reception team could do with some manners though. Next I find myself blasting bad guys and the odd PC monitor. A secret tunnel then takes me to a lift, which moves me on to the final stage. After an awkward welcoming party, and a statue that resembles Sarah from Virtua Fighter, I meet boss.
But now you'll regret being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Who turns into some sort of ED-209 style robot. He's easily defeated though. Then the helicopter returns. This is piloted by Joe Fang.
This chopper is all I need. I'm through with you two. Now you meet your maker.
Who fires rockets and flames. After a few cases of, how did he move the chopper like that? I eventually blow him up and watch him fall to his doom. You then see your results, before an end-staff cinematic shows Boss being led away and your mullet-loving cops leaving, presumably towards the sequel. And then I get to shoot my name into the high score table. Now, watch a minute of this original version in action. The PC port released in 1996 and was a high-resolution version of the Sega Saturn game. On the left is my fragile UK cardboard box copy, whilst on the right is how the game was renamed in the USA as Virtua Squad. I'm not sure why it was renamed, as it has a label on it saying it's the smash arcade hit Virtua Cop, now on PC. The PC version begins with the Sega and AM2 logo, before the arcade-style rolling demo begins. This, like the arcade, teaches you how the game works. It's a shame they didn't improve the quality of the text from the lower resolution Sega Saturn version though. Obviously, being a PC game, the game works a bit differently, using the mouse. So the reload requires you to double-click the right mouse button, as the intro shows here. We then get the same intro cinematic as the arcade original, with the bad guys checking out their guns. The police car has been redesigned from a Pontiac Firebird though, presumably to dodge any licensing issues. The rest of the intro plays out as per the arcade, before the title screen appears. After the Sega and AM2 logo repeat, there's a low-resolution, badly upscaled video sequence showing that the cops are called Michael Hardy, or Rage, and James Cools, aka Smarty. We then see the first stage boss, Kong. Another sequence sees the cops weaving through the dockyard, knocking out a copy of the Sega Saturn game, then confronting Kong as per the end of the first stage. When you start the game, the PC version also has a training mode. This can be played single or two-player, and you just shoot some targets, avoiding red ones. This progresses through several increasingly difficult levels, where targets appear in a number of different ways, and you're tasked with scoring more and more accurately. Eventually I fail. It's a fun little distraction from the main game though. Starting the game proper, it's basically identical to the arcade, as we start in the ARMS Black Market stage. This game runs at 640 by 480 resolution, which is higher than the arcade, so a bit more detail is visible. However, it only uses direct draw, so none of the textures are filtered or smoothed here. The first stage plays out as per the arcade, taking on a lot of guys in the port, getting the odd bonus gun along the way, before moving indoors to take out guys in the warehouse. And eventually I square up to Kong and his amusing voice acting.
Pretty bold, aren't we? I'll take care of you myself. I give up, I give up. I'll talk what you want to know about a racket.
As per the arcade, he tries to trick me, and the helicopter then departs. Stage 2's underground weapon storage has a more interesting sky than the arcade. Stick around for the pixel comparison on this scene in a few minutes' time. Once again, I take out all the bad guys around the quarry. This time I take out the truck driver though, but not the excavator driver, who hits me. The end car explosion is pretty dramatic again here, despite having a bit less detail to work with. The underground sequence is just as tightly packed as the arcade, with the bonus machine gun proving useful. King is just as annoying here with his mix of flames and soldiers. Eventually he's defeated though. The third, gang headquarters stage, starts off with the same outside sequence, and the same car garage battle. Then it's into the lobby, which is as well realised as the arcade, complete with the truck attack. The escalator leads to a machine gun firing fest, before we go into the office scene again. After taking out some more bad guys and computers, we eventually get to the lift, and take on the protective suit wearing guys. The water in the fountain has become rather pixelated in this version, but you can destroy the statue's vase. And here we get to boss.
But now you'll regret being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Who again turns into a robot. He's once again pretty easily destroyed though. Then Fang comes to attack you. Unlike the arcade, you're not having to fight him with walls blocking the side of the screen, as the view is cropped a little bit more tightly in this version. Eventually he's taken out, you're giving your score breakdown, and then the same end sequence plays. All the police cars have been remodelled here, but otherwise the game is a spot-on, faithful arcade conversion with slightly reduced graphics. As I input my name into the high score table, enjoy a minute of this version in action.
Don't shoot me!
The PC release was unique in that it included a version optimised for the Nvidia NV1 chipset, as found in cards like the Diamond Edge 3D 2040 XL, which I'm using for this video. The card does have a little interference though, so the picture isn't 100% perfect here, but it's easy to spot the difference to the regular direct draw version. The NV1 version begins with the logos, then the rolling demo. Interestingly, the text here is much higher quality on the pop-ups, but texture quality on the polygon graphics suffers a lot. The textures improve in quality as the camera scales into them though. The game had to play on lower level NV1 cards, like the 2200 model, so something had to give, I guess. The cinematic sequence plays out the same here, but you can see how the textures on bad guy shirts are really pixelated. The NV1 version also runs in a different resolution to the standard PC release, at 640 by 400 resolution. This does change how things are framed in the game. The low resolution video also features here, but it looks and sounds like it's struggling more on this card, with notable dithering on the image. The NV1 version also features the training mode. I'm a little off here though, as the mouse moves pretty quickly, and I'm playing as I capture, which introduces a little bit of lag, so I don't get very far. Starting the game, everything is much like the PC version, but the title looks higher resolution here. The port scene plays out just as per the other versions, but you can see how the texture quality shifts as the camera zooms in and out. Overall it's pretty much the same, just a bit lower quality. The flashing crosshair helps you see where you're aiming a bit better than the light blue one on the standard release. Here we are inside the warehouse, with again the logos on the boxes looking pretty low quality until the camera zooms in. And here's Kong. His rocket launcher looks like Lego. The resolution is so low quality on the textures. It's worth noting that transparencies in this version are truly semi-transparent, such as the smoke here. In the arcade and standard PC version, a cross-hatch grid pattern is used for transparencies instead. Stage 2 and the distant hillside looks very Minecraft. And look at the car wheels! The sky in this version is different again to both the other versions, as we'll compare shortly. The quarry section is once again repeated here, just with texture compromises everywhere. I successfully take out the truck driver again, and the excavator driver. So how does the exploding car look on this version? It's okay, if a bit pixelated. As you can see, I'm not playing as well on this version. Apart from a little lag and the mouse being quite fast, the cursor is actually about a quarter of the size of the PC standard version, making it pretty easy to lose in the heat of battle. I get to King, but I'm really low on lives and continues. Despite this version doing transparencies properly, they appear to have forgotten to make the trails on his flames transparent, but the explosions are. Eventually I get taken out though, so I can't complete a full run on this version. At least I get a high score. As you can pick levels individually though, let's try the third stage. It is, as before, the same as the standard PC version, just with reduced texture quality and improved transparencies. The car garage stage is present again. Boom! As we head upstairs, look at the roof in this version, very blocky. The lobby plays out the same though, with plenty of hostages to try not to shoot. And the truck is here, with its super low quality wheels. The office scene I find a lot harder here, so decide to kill more PCs, and the odd axe throwing bad guy. Eventually I take the lift, past the statue, and take on boss. Due to this game being more widescreen, the walls at the top of the stairs are visible here on the sides. I defeat him, but as I played the third stage alone, there's no appearance from Fang. You essentially have to play the game in order to see him and his helicopter. Likewise, the end sequence only appears once all 3 stages are complete in the correct order. Here's a minute of the NV1 version. Let's compare the three versions at the pixel level. First, here's the opening dock scene of the first stage. Note the texturing on the keep out sign. Wiping across to the PC version, it's more zoomed in, with a different sky and much easier to read signs, both on the board and the crates in the background. Finally, wiping to the NV1 version, you can see how it gains more width, but has such low resolution textures, the keep out messaging is unreadable, and the car wheel is now just pixels. Moving to the second stage, it's got a dark sunset background, and everything is tinted slightly orange, giving it an evening feel. Wiping to the PC version, the textures on the rock piles are much more varied, and the sky is completely different. Otherwise, pretty much everything is present and correct. Finally, the NV1 version has another sky variant, and the textures are much lower quality. There are just 8 pixels for the car wheel. Here's the start of the third stage. Note here the EVL Corporation board, and the clouds reflected in the window. Wiping across to the PC version, it's much more zoomed in. The cloud reflections are a little bit lower quality. And last of all, the NV1 version has the worst texture quality, with the exception of the window reflections, which are actually equivalent to the standard PC version. Let's put all three versions head to head, comparing several sequences and bosses from across each version.
Reload. Reload.
The arcade version is fairly simple compared to most of the light gun games Sega would go on to make, but as a starting point, it's pretty good. I dread to think how high the body count would be if this was real life though. The standard PC port is a quality port with all the features of the arcade. There's also a ranking mode that unlocks when you complete the game, which allows your entire run to be scored. Whilst the PC version lacks filtering, it's crisp and colourful, and plenty playable enough. The NV1 accelerated version features actual transparency effects, rather than cross-hatch grid effects, but the massive reduction in texture quality, along with the very small gun cursor, make this version less fun to play. But for computers of the day, with low-speed processors, the NV1 version could have accelerated the game into being playable. If you like this comparison of Virtua Cop, or Virtua Squad, then give it a like, or subscribe, ring the bell, or leave a comment. And join me next time for an easy write, maybe.